Okay, so we've got this really interesting personal guide exploring microshifting, basically, structuring work into these intentional short blocks. It digs into the benefits for solo pros, the risks, and pulls in some science, too.
Yeah, and what hits you immediately is the language. I mean, choreography, not chaos, calling it a design philosophy, not a productivity system. That's really strong stuff.
Absolutely. That philosophical angle is solid. And the insight, especially coming from that one-man brand perspective, that feeling of working by survival, it's genuinely fantastic.
Right. We're definitely not talking about major flaws here. This is more about strategic tweaks. Opportunities to refine the positioning and just maximize the impact of these already great ideas.
So it feels like a core theme here should be establishing this piece as the definitive voice on microshifting, right from the start.
That seems to be the goal, yeah. But I wonder if the current intro quite nails that authority. I think, maybe to really establish maximum authority, the material needs to actively reclaim ownership of microshifting.
Okay, reclaim it how?
Well, frame it more like a manifesto that grew out of necessity, your necessity, rather than presenting it primarily as a reaction to a trend already being discussed elsewhere.
I see what you mean. That weakness might be playing out right at the beginning. The author's unique story, this mosaic work life across time zones, that's the real superpower here, isn't it?
Exactly. But the essay kicks off a little defensively almost, by referencing Forbes and Fast Company first, like they're defining the trend before you do.
Yeah, okay, and that risks making this guide feel like just a smart summary of what's out there instead of the personal, definitive statement it could be.
Precisely. You've clearly lived this, solved the mosaic puzzle. That credibility is immense, but the piece needs to project that authority right away, no hesitation.
Got it. So let's talk about strengthening that. The main suggestion then is probably to refocus those first couple of sections entirely.
I think so. Use that personal light bulb moment, the feeling of the day being a mosaic, chaotic when it doesn't fit. Make that the primary definition.
Right, lead with the personal pain in the discovery.
Yes. Then those media mentions become secondary. Like, oh, and by the way, others are noticing this too, but after you've defined it on your terms. This needs to feel like the essential, maybe even the corrective, definition for solo workers for the creator economy.
Okay, that makes sense. So concretely, how could that look? One way is just timing.
Yeah. One approach is simply moving those references, Forbes, Fast Company, the Gen Z angle, push them later in the piece. Maybe after you've fully landed the concept, using your own powerful, lived experience language.
Let the reader feel the chaos you felt first.
Exactly. Make that connection. And another thing you have, that really strong statement later on, I think it's section 7, about the new economy being modular.
Oh yeah, microshifting is the natural work pattern of the creator economy.
That one. That's a powerful why. Pull it forward. Use that insight much earlier to really assert that this isn't just, a nice-to-have flexible schedule. It's actually fundamental for how creative work gets done now.
Okay, so establish the necessity early on. And maybe even before naming microshifting, spend a bit more time setting up the problem. Challenging the old 9-to-5 model directly?
Yes. Make clear from the outset this is a radical redesign of time itself, not just tinkering around the edges. That gives you instant command over the narrative.
That strategic reframing definitely feels like it would boost the impact. Okay, shifting gears slightly. Let's look at the intellectual rigor, specifically around the warnings, the potential downsides of fragmentation.
Right. You make a compelling case for why microshifting is needed, but we can probably deepen the warnings by bringing in some more objective context.
Exactly. I think the material could reach another level of sophistication if it integrated those specific scientific counterarguments directly into the philosophical warnings about fragmentation.
So, moving beyond just personal feeling to, here's what the research says.
Precisely. Because the weakness right now is that you've got this really strong evidence, the data on cognitive switching costs, how fragmentation messes with flow, the whole always-on paradox.
And it's all kind of sequestered in Appendix 2 right at the very end.
Yeah. And by keeping it separate, the main body of the essay misses a chance to really wrestle with that intellectual friction, which actually makes the argument stronger.
You're right. It's almost like saying, here are the potential problems, but trust me,
instead of here are the potential problems and here's the proof they're real.
Exactly. So the suggestion is pretty clear. Weave those critical scientific risks, cognitive load, boundary erosion, directly into the sections where you're already discussing the dangers, like in the freedom trap section.
Okay, makes sense. So when the author talks about that feeling of freedom becoming erosion if it's unmanaged.
Right there. Immediately follow that up by linking it to the actual science. Mention those studies showing that high control combined with low boundaries, which is common for solo pros, leads people to work longer and struggle to switch off.
So connecting the personal feeling of erosion to the documented psychological outcome. Got it.
Yes, it makes the warning less subjective, more concrete. And you could do the same thing in the section on the cost of fragmentation.
Where it talks about feeling perpetually halfway through everything?
Exactly. Connect that feeling explicitly to the research finding that frequent task switching carries a real, measurable switching cost. Remind the reader this isn't just you feeling scattered. Psychology shows it costs you like 10–20% of your productive time.
Ooh, that's a powerful statistic to drop right there. It quantifies the pain point.
It does. And naming that scientific enemy makes your mitigation strategy feel much more grounded and necessary. It changes the conclusion from a philosophical shrug, like it's what you make of it, to a really informed, evidence-based approach.
Yeah, it shows you're not just dealing with feelings, you're tackling proven psychological costs head on. That definitely elevates it.
That rigor turns a personal reflection into something much closer to an essential industry guide.
Okay, so we've got the authority piece nailed down, and we've layered in the science. Now, the final piece, the practical application. How does the reader actually do this safely and effectively?
Right. We need to translate all this great philosophical and scientific insight into a clear, usable system the reader can implement immediately.
Absolutely. Because the advice you've got in there already on designing the day and the initial ideas around soft rituals, they're insightful, but they need to be structured more like a transferable framework.
Okay, expand on that. What's the weakness there?
Well, currently, while the ideas are great, like viewing the day as a score, not a schedule, or the soft rituals concept, they feel a bit too much like your personal routine. It's maybe not immediately obvious how someone else struggling with those fragmentation costs we just discussed can just pick it up and run with it.
It's presented more as, here's what works for me, rather than, here's a system designed to solve the problems we identified.
Exactly. And those soft rituals are mentioned, but just briefly listed. They feel underdeveloped compared to their potential importance.
Okay, so the suggestion here is to really elevate those rituals, make them more deliberate, more structured.
Yes. Turn them into a concise, memorable, repeatable framework. Give it a name even. Something that sounds like a core part of the methodology. Maybe, I don't know, like the 3 rules of microshift integrity? Or something similar?
Ooh, I like that. Integrity. It implies holding the structure together against those forces of erosion and fragmentation.
Right? It elevates it from just good habits to an essential framework needed to make microshifting sustainable. It directly solves the freedom trap and cognitive load problems we've discussed.
Okay, so let's map that out using the ideas already there. We could systematize those 3 rituals mentioned. So number 1, start the day analog. That becomes the formal pre-work boundary, sets the tone.
Nice. Rule 1, guard the start.
Rule 2, close each block with a note, not a task. That becomes the critical exit boundary.
Rule 2, clean shutdown. Love it.
And Rule 3, schedule empty slots. That's the intentional recovery strategy.
Rule 3, build in the buffers. Perfect. Pre-work boundary, exit boundary, recovery strategy. Simple, memorable, actionable.
And we need to flush those out a bit more, especially the exit boundary. It's powerful, but we need to explain how it fights that perpetually halfway through feeling.
Good point. How could we make that more concrete?
Maybe suggest that the closing note must contain, say, a single pre-written first sentence for the next work block on that same project.
So you're not just summarizing, you're literally building the on-ramp for next time right there in the note. That directly tackles the cognitive switching cost when you return.
Exactly. It's a specific tactic grounded in the science we just talked about, directly countering that 10–20% time loss.
That's a fantastic practical tip. Really connects the philosophy to the daily grind. And what about the reset idea mentioned? The physical transition?
Yeah, we should probably elevate that too. Make it a mandatory transition between shifts. We could even reference the Science Again mentioned findings about how scheduled active micro breaks, even just 5 minutes of movement, boost well-being.
Right. So offer concrete examples, like a quick stretch before hopping on a call, or a brisk walk around the block after finishing a deep work session. Frame it as part of the system, not just a nice to do.
Exactly. Turning these smart, intuitive ideas into a clear, defensible named system, that's the final step to making this guide incredibly useful and shareable.
Okay, so wrapping this up, we've covered quite a bit today, aiming to take this already strong piece and make it truly definitive.
Yeah, the main actionable suggestions really boil down to 3 key areas. First, reclaiming that central definition of microshifting right at the start. Make it your manifesto, not just a commentary on a trend.
Second, weave that science in. Integrate the research on switching costs and detachment directly into the main warnings about fragmentation and freedom. Turn the advice into really solid evidence-based mitigation strategies.
And third, structure the practical advice. Expand those soft rituals into a clear, memorable framework, like those 3 rules of integrity, making it super actionable for the reader.
Right. Making these strategic shifts will really transform this from a powerful personal reflection, which it already is, into a truly robust, authoritative, and essential guide for anyone trying to navigate work in the creator economy today.
We were genuinely impressed with the core thinking and especially the language here. We really encourage you to incorporate these strategic points.
Definitely. Take these ideas, run with them, and when you feel the revised piece is ready, please do send it back our way. We'd be very happy to run the critique on it again.